Stuart Mandel writes the story of the 1990s. Split national titles tore college football apart in the 1990s. Were they really so bad? Did you think split national championships were so bad?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. I think it was almost to the point where, and this would never have happened, and I think we probably talked about it back in the day, like, if you're going to have split national championships, let's get them on a field and let them play.
Yeah, play one more game or something. It was just weird. The first one I can remember was Georgia Tech and Colorado.
Yep.
And Georgia Tech, some might forget, played their final game of the season, which was their game for a national championship, essentially, against Nebraska in the Citrus Bowl. Let that sink in for a second. The Citrus Bowl was where they played their national championship game. And I think that was the morning of New Year's Day, if I'm not mistaken. And
I think you're right.
And that night, Colorado at least played Notre Dame and at least did it in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah. Now, the frustrating thing is we saw that on kind of the low end. Like watching those teams, you're like, Colorado, Georgia Tech, neither one of those teams look like a national championship team.
They both had a little, Colorado had the fifth down where they got an extra play against Missouri down on the goal line and won the game on that play. That was a huge controversy. Georgia Tech had a tie with a bad North Carolina team at home. Neither one of them were national championship.
But the very next year, you're like, okay, we got split national champions. What do we got this next year? Then you had two elite split national champions in Miami and Washington the very next year.
That's right. And then later on, of course, the Michigan-Nebraska split national championship, when Nebraska probably would have blitzed that Michigan team, in my opinion.
Nebraska went to the Orange Bowl. Michigan went to the Rose Bowl.
Right.
Washington went to the Rose Bowl. Who was the other one there? Washington, and who did they split it with? I forget.
Miami.
And Miami, I don't even remember. Orange, probably. So, that was the system we had then, and it was just the system we had, so it didn't make sense.
They beat a two-loss Nebraska team who had lost to Washington. And
that's right. Yeah, I forgot that aspect.
The guy in the locker room,
yeah,
the Nebraska player said, we have nothing to hang our head about. We lost to two number one teams.
Yeah.
And then the next morning they woke up and it was split national champions. So he was exactly right.
Yeah.
So, but that led us to 1998, the BCS, which led us to the playoffs and led us to where we are now. So when I ask you the greatest decade of college football, and the 90s are a long time ago now, what was the greatest decade of college football to you, Lance?
Well, I think it's easy. When we had this discussion a couple of months ago, I said it begins at 1998. Like, if you want me to specifically do a decade, I would go.
This can't be a 10-year period. This needs to be a legit decade.
Yeah, legit decade.
Okay, well, then I would go 2000 to 2010.
I think that's going to be it.
But that's 11 years, so... Anyway, I was going to say 2000 to 2010, in those 11 years, he had 9 different champions. And if you took it back, again, I know you want to go decade, but if you go 98 to 2000, you've got 11 different champions in 13 years. Yeah. That's incredible.
And they all, I don't know if I can say all of them, because that 2-loss LSU team just did not.
Well, just go down real quick.
I was going to say, which ones felt like a national championship?
Tennessee felt like a national championship.
They did, yes.
I know
they felt like the best team in America.
Now,
look, they had the weird game against Arkansas, but everybody catches a break every now and then.
Yeah, I think Florida State seemed like in 1999. I know the Virginia Tech team was good. But, 2000 Oklahoma, we didn't believe it until we saw it.
But it was a terrible championship game. It was 13-2, right? Was the final in that game, I think. So it was just a terrible championship game, so that didn't quite feel like it. But Oklahoma that whole year felt like the best team in America.
2001 Miami, not even close.
No, they were
Complete domination. 2002 Ohio State, they did it on the field. Like, I never would have thought it until I saw it. But that Purdue, a 4th down, a 4th and 1, where they go up top, they beat Purdue. The way they beat Miami in that game, but you still consider Ohio State, right?
Yeah, I do. Now that was controversial.
2003 is interesting. LSU and USC.
The last split we ever had.
Yeah. Right? So that was not the 2-loss LSU team. That was the Nick Saban LSU team who lost, as I remember, to Florida at home. And it was a pretty bad loss, too. I think it was like 20-7 or something like that.
I think it would have been a hell of a game. I really do. I lean SC would have won that game with all the weapons they had, but LSU's defense was dominant.
They were very good, very good.
2004 USC, I mean, that was, you saw what they did to, I know Auburn fans will jump in here, but whatever. 2005 Texas, I mean, they did it on the field. You would have thought USC would win that, but that was cut and dry. 2006 Florida, another one going into that game, nobody believed Florida was going to beat Ohio State, did they?
Chris Leake's team, and
Yeah.
they did it.
Yeah, who was their loss? Was it Auburn? It was Auburn. They lost at Jordan Hare Stadium. Yeah, you and I were there.
Yeah, you
To
and I
this
were there.
day, it's one of the craziest atmospheres
Okay.
I've ever been in.
Here's one. This did not feel like a national champion. 2007, 2-loss LSU.
Well, that was the one I brought up. Now, it's 2 losses in overtime, to be entirely fair. Both games they lost were in overtime. It wasn't like they got blitzed, but they're still 2 losses.
I just look back at that year today.
They beat Ohio State, which didn't even seem that good that year.
Yeah, but 3 times that year in 2007, number 1 and number 2 lost the same weekend,
Yeah.
including week 13 and week 14. LSU lost twice as the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. How often do you
And-
get that chance?
And the same time,
Yeah.
they lost twice as number 1 team. And when they lost as the number 1 team, the number 2 team lost both weekends that they lost as the number 1 team.
Yeah.
It was just chaos at the top of the polls all season long. I think that's the year USF had climbed all the way to number 2 in the country.
Yeah. I
That season.
remember was that same year?
I
So
think so.
USF got all the way to number 2,
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
lost.
Rutgers was in the mix that year.
Yeah, Rutgers. It was a weird year.
Big East was really good that year.
The number 2 team lost 7 times that season.
Yeah, I think Missouri and Kansas made it to number 2 at some
They,
point.
they played the Big 12
Number 4
champion.
versus number 2 the week before the Big 12 championship.
Yeah,
the
the-
winner won the division.
To me, that was the last year of not having the elite team because then we go on a run with the SEC where
Yeah.
it was
But
cut and dry.
Now, the LSU team, I remember the overtime loss to Kentucky in Commonwealth Stadium, and that was a good Kentucky team, by
Top
the way.
10 Kentucky team. I
Yeah.
think they were number 9 at the
Yeah,
time.
they jumped up. They hosted game day the next week because Florida, I think, was in town the very next week. I mean, they had a tough schedule, obviously. I cannot remember who their other overtime loss was, LSU. though.
Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
It was the
right
last game of the
it
regular
was right
season.
at the end of the regular season. How often do you recover from that?
Yeah. To get a chance to be number 1 twice, lose as the number 1 team, and still get a chance to
Yeah.
play for the
Yeah.
national championship.
Yeah, so that one, that's one of the ones I would say I don't feel like we had a legitimate. I mean, somebody had to win it, but
Yeah.
I don't feel like we just had a national
But
championship.
2008, we saw the national championship game in Atlanta with Florida and
They
Alabama.
were a very deserving
But
champion.
Florida, they lose to Ole Miss. We remember Tebow's speech, but I mean, that was a national champion team. 2009, obviously, Bama goes undefeated. 2010, Auburn undefeated. 2011, Alabama, a little controversial because Oak State believed they should be in the game.
Yeah.
But Alabama in that rematch was dominant. And then 12 was dominant.
Yeah, against Notre Dame.
Yeah. Florida State was dominant in 13.
I mean,
And
And
then
then we started the 4-team playoff.
yeah, and then
Right.
when we got to the 14, like there was no chance Ohio State with the third string quarterback was going to be able to do it, and they did it. But I think that 08 to 13 gap, you had a list of dominant, legitimate national
that
champions.
2000s was fun. Lance is right. From 2000 to 2009, if you want to literally cut it off at a 10-year period. 2010, if you want to make it feel more comfortable there and include Auburn, that was a fun run of college football.
So is that your answer?
I mean, I think when you talk about stuff like this, you always default back to when you fell in love with a movie or a song or a sport. And I fell in love with college football in the 80s. So I'm always going to love the 80s. And that was a fun decade. I was talking to a friend recently and I was like, we had the smaller regional conferences in the 80s. And I brought this up to you not long ago. And each conference kind of had its own identity. Like the Pac-12 threw it all over the field. The Big 8 was that fun triple option. They had those high-scoring triple option. The Big 10 was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. The SEC, they ran
running backs and defense.
running backs and defense. The Southwest Conference was a little bit like the Big 8, but it felt a little different. Everybody just kind of had their own identity then. And then you had all these independents. Like Florida State didn't have a conference home. Penn State didn't have a conference home.
ACC, they'd fumble it on turf and dribble it a couple of times and lay it in.
I know they did. I never watched ACC football back
It
then.
just seems like the football is much more clean.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, outside of the 80s. But let me ask you guys this. When we talk about the parity of 11 different champions in 13 years from 08 or from 98 to 2010, we now have 4 consecutive different champions. Going back to the last time the SEC won one with Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana. Like, are we going to have more parity over this next decade if we started with Georgia in 2022?
I was going to ask, what's the old Andy from The Office line? Are we living in the best of times right now?
Essentially, he says, I wish you knew you were living in the good old days when you're actually living in them.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally we're not, because there's so many things. Like, we're finally getting this figured out about a 5-year window. We still don't have NIL figured out. So I think there's a lot of moving parts. But as far as like sitting back on a Saturday and going, holy shit, Yeah, we might be there right
We
now.
might be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the chat room saying as you tell us that, Brownie? The show being brought to you in part today by the great folks at New York Butcher Shop.
I am planning to go see our man Jim today to pick up a couple of steaks for tonight. I'm telling you, it's a fantastic option. If you're thinking about going out to eat sometimes, think about just going and picking up some of the delicious fresh meats from our man Jim in the New York Butcher Shop. They've got 2 locations for you. Cahaba Heights, the newer location right there, Highway 119 in Greystone. Also want to remind you about the 4th of July. I just got some new stuff from our man Jim this morning. The certified Angus beef hamburger patties, their ground beef, 80-20 blend of the certified Angus prime beef and the filet ribeye New York strip and chuck. You can get those. Also the fully cooked hickory smoked Boston butt sale. They do it every year for the 4th of July, available for pickup the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. $42.99, fully cooked, hickory smoked, reservations only, either location. Get in, see Jim and the fine folks. Rare quality, well done service. It's the New York Butcher Shop.
Barry says 1994 should also have been a split. That was Penn State and Nebraska. And if you was Penn State Big East then, I think? They had already joined the Big East by then, I believe.
I don't think Penn State
I
ever
thought
was
they-
in the
I
Big
They
thought
were
they
never
were
in the Big East?
independent in
So they were
94.
still independent until they joined the Big
Independent
Ten?
Yeah.
I thought they played in the Big East for a minute. I apologize
Just
for that.
on my video game.
Yeah, I thought that was a split too. I mean, I'm looking at probably
I don't
the same
think it
list
was.
you got. I thought it was.
So Penn State played.
Isn't that when they beat Miami and they wore the camouflage?
No, that was
84.
87.
Yeah, 87, yeah.
Penn State scalded Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Nebraska beat Miami in the Orange, and I think Nebraska won both polls, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So if
I guess they did. Well, it says right here, 94 AP, UPI, USA, CNN. So
Oh,
I
there you
guess
go. They
that's
got
it.
them
got it
all.
all, yeah. CNN.
Yeah, Penn State was and Alabama actually entered the championship weekend undefeated that year too, and they lost to Florida. Gene Stallings' puzzling decision not to go for 2
Yep.
after the Dwayne Rudd interception return. They lost to Florida by, as it turns out, a point when you didn't go for 2.
33-32, something like
It
that.
was like 24-23 as I remember it. But anyway, they get knocked out of the national championship. I don't think they were actually in it because Penn State was not losing in the Rose Bowl. Nebraska was not losing in the Orange Bowl. So Alabama was going to get shut out, but they were at least in the mix going into championship weekend. But there's another one that could have been a split championship according to Barry, and I think he's right about that. Let's see.
We used to have them all the time in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Matt reminds you if West Virginia did not lose to Pitt, they might have been national championship team. Could they have beaten Ohio State? That was not even a conference championship game. That was the last game of the regular season.
The regular season.
And West Virginia lost to Pitt, and West Virginia got every call in that game. Sam reminds you that West Virginia was the team that UCF lost to when they were number 2. USF, Rutgers, and Louisville, Tyler says, were all good then. And that was a weird time in the Big East where they did have some good national teams. Boston College reached number 2 with Matt Ryan.
Hey, to your point, in the 60s, 5 of 7 years you had split national championships between 60 and 66.
Yeah.
And one year you had 3 in 64, Alabama, Arkansas, and Notre Dame.
Yep.
Wow.
Notre Dame didn't go to bowl games back then.
And
that-
1970 had 3.
Yeah. And then Alabama split in 73, split in 78. So Bryant's national championships, several of them were split. National championships.
Yeah. Dixie Normus, interesting name, says the Dixie is his first name.
Yeah.
Normus is his last
Great
name.
Austin Powers reference
Yes,
there.
indeed.
Yeah.
Another one I've never seen.
He said, don't forget that 2008 Texas team that lost to Texas Tech. They would have played for the national championship. I mean, you had games like that. Like those games don't exist really as much anymore.
The
All right,
do or
they're
die
at least,
games.
yeah, those
Yeah.
do or die games. They're further down the pecking order.
Yeah, at the top of the standings.
That's right. These were at the top of the standings there. Matt says 2008 would have been an epic year for a 12-team playoff, and he's talking about that same year. Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas Tech all had one loss. USC had one loss, and Utah was undefeated. He's right. I mean, there were some years back then when, boy, a 18 playoff would have been fascinating to watch.
The folks at The Athletic rank they're focusing on the 90s, ranked the best top 25 coaches in the 1990s. Number 1, obviously, is Bobby Bowden, 2 national championships, 10 top 5 finishes. So every year in the 90s, he finished in the top 5.
That's got to be interesting because I would assume Tom Osborne's going to be 2, but Spurrier was so dominant, but he's got to be 3.
You may never guess number 2. Steve Spurrier is 3.
Wait a minute. So Bowden is 1.
Spurrier's 3.
Spurrier's
One
3, and it's not-
national championship, 8 top 10 finishes, 5 top
These
5
are coaches
finishes.
of the 90s?
Yeah.
And it's not Tom Osborne?
Tom Osborne.
He had
is
3
fourth.
national championships.
Osborne is 4th with 3 national championships, most in the nation. One was split, tied for 6th nationally with 87 wins.
So 2 is
he
a
retired in 97.
Yeah. Well, I think he did enough, though, from 90 to 97 that we could put him
I
in
don't
there.
even know who 2 could
Hang
be.
on, let me
Oh,
think
you
through this.
love-
You said winningest of the 90s?
No, they ranked the best coaches of the 90s, the Athletic. You love the guy number 2.
Oh,
Don't tell me it's Philip Fulmer.
No, it's Bill Snyder.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lance is on board now.
They took
No.
Kansas State.
I think
They
that's too
reference. They literally say he was the Kirk Cignetti of the 90s.
No, well, without the championships, though.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but they lost their Texas A&M upset them in the Big 12 championship
In 1998, and they
game.
would have played for the national championship. And I think Michael Bishop was good enough to win them a national championship that year. But still, like if you went head to head, what did, and I know it was apples to oranges when you were talking about what Nebraska had on the roster compared to Kansas State. But I just remember Kansas State losing a ton of those games against Nebraska. I remember they were really hyped. They were late November games, and Kansas State would be number 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Nebraska would be number 1 or 2. And Nebraska seemed like they won all those games. How Tom Osborne's number 2
I
on this
agree.
list is a joke.
Random stuff that's in my head. The Texas A&M running back that ran the long run that ended that game and ended Kansas State shot was Sir Parker.
Yeah,
Am I right about that?
I think you are.
4 National Coach of the Year awards in the 90s for Bill Snyder. 4 times he was
No, he
National
could
Coach
coach.
of the Year.
He could go. I would put him in front
87
of Tom
wins,
Osborne.
tied with Osborne 6 nationally.
Yeah.
7 winning seasons for the programs in the 90s. They had 4 the previous 54 years.
I mean, no, it was as bad a program as Indiana was, and he took it over and didn't win the national championship, but came darn close.
Barry Alvarez was 5, Joe Pa 6, Phil Fulmer 7th, Dennis Erickson, Miami and Oregon State was 8th, Gene Stallings 9th on this list.
That's probably about right in the
6
90s.
ranked finishes in 6 seasons of coaching, 3 in the top 5, and a national championship.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Number 10 was Bill McCartney, had Colorado good before Deion Sanders. Lloyd Carr was 11, R.C. Slocum 12, Lou Holtz 13 in the 90s. This was the end after the great 80s in South Carolina. John Cooper is 14, Frank Beamer 15, Mac Brown 16. I'm getting down to 1. Paul Pasqualoni, I think we were trying to think of his
Syracuse.
name.
He
earlier.
was so freaking good.
Lavelle Edwards, 18. Joe Tiller, 19. Fisher DeBerry, George Walsh, Dick Tomey, Bruce Snyder, and then number 24 of the 90s.
Tommy Tupper?
Nope.
Tommy Bowden?
Nope. Close. Terry Bowden.
Oh, Terry Bowden. That's what I meant.
Oh, Terry
Yeah.
Bowden. I should have gone Terry Bowden.
Terry
Yeah,
Bowden.
I went Tommy Tupperville and had him at Auburn too early. That would have had to have been his Ole Miss days.
I just have to bring this up. I had to look.
Terry Bowden. Yeah.
10 matchups between Bill Snyder, as much as I like Bill Snyder, and Tom Osborne in the 90s. What do you think the record
Oh,
was?
I bet it was 9-1 Osborne.
It was 9-1.
Yeah. I mean, they dominated that
Wow.
conference.
Yeah.
But, I mean, some would say
Still 9-1. I mean,
it's a little bit like when Bowden when they first joined the ACC and they had it cooking, it felt like they would play North Carolina every year. North Carolina was undefeated or 1 loss. And everybody's like, this is the year.
Yep.
This is,
Mac Brown's North Carolina.
Mac
team.
Brown's North, and then it was Carl Torbush's North Carolina team. So Mac Brown took the Texas job, and every year Florida State would beat them like 23-3.
Yep.
And you're like, well, this wasn't the year.
Sometimes on a Thursday night.
Yeah.